Acting Ambassador David Young, I thank you very much for taking the time to speak to CNBC.
Pleasure. Thank you.
So, the announcement of the US Treasury of Foreign Office and forfeiture of assets, essentially putting a ban on the Gupta family, has been welcomed with a lot of fanfare in South Africa. But it compels one to look back at the US-South Africa relationship. It has been through some testing times. Where are we now in our relationship?
We, on behalf of the United States government, I can say that we are very enthusiastic about the progress and the state of our relationship right now. We are at a very hopeful moment. We have a new ambassador, Lana Marks, who was just confirmed and sworn in this last week. She is looking forward to her arrival here in South Africa in several weeks, likely in mid-November. She recently met just a couple days ago with President Trump in the Oval Office and talked with him about how important this relationship is and how we want to move it forward. We are at a very hopeful and optimistic time, and I think we see that President Cyril Ramaphosa and his cabinet are taking the government in some exciting and encouraging directions, and our cooperation across a wide range of issues is very hopeful and exciting for us.
The Department of State essentially is the president's window to the world, if you will. It allows President Trump to have a finger on the pulse, for a lack of a better phrase. How does the president see South Africa, as and the continent, I guess, as a whole?
I think the action that we took with these Magnitsky sanctions that reveal our close cooperation on rule of law and anti-corruption issues show how we're partners together between the United States and South Africa. One of the other areas where we cooperate on extensively is our movement forward and expanding trade and investment. This is a major priority of our president and our administration, and I know when Ambassador Marks is here, this will be a big focus for what she wants to help us do. We have some new instruments in our government that are going to help us expand our trade and investment between our companies even more so. Prosper Africa is a new program that's coming online. We have the Build Act, the Development Finance Corporation, a number of different instruments that promote trade and investment between the United States and South Africa in both directions. And we are very excited about some of the signals and the hopefulness that we feel in those areas.
During our last presidency, when Jacob Zuma was still head of state, we saw a shift, if you will. We saw a much more close alignment with Asian tigers, particularly China. You saw a much more closer relationship with Russia. When Cyril Ramaphosa came into power, he really made sure that he is not necessarily shutting anyone out, which was a hallmark of the last presidency, if you will. And we saw him being part of the G8 meetings, really trying to forge closer relations with the West, if you will. Cyril Ramaphosa is under the coach. He needs help on both fronts. South Africa wants to hold a lot of people that, the corruption has been alleged about accountable. And South Africa needs help in its economy. It's under-delivering. Can you help Cyril Ramaphosa on both fronts? Does he have an honest broker in the United States?
President Ramaphosa has made some very important signals about how he wants to attract more foreign direct investment in South Africa to help expand the economy, create jobs. Clearly, that's a huge priority for him and his administration to address some of the unemployment challenges, particularly for the youth, address poverty and inequality, and we recognize that and feel that moving forward on trade and investment ties is a very important way that we can have a win-win and really focus on shared prosperity between our countries. So that's a major, major priority for us. And in that sense, the United States is a strong partner with South Africa in moving forward in that direction. We also work together in fighting corruption and other things, as we just mentioned, and Minister of Justice Lamola and others who are champions in the fight against corruption. We very much appreciate our cooperation through our Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty and other means. We do extraordinary work together between the Ministry of Health and the United States President Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, our PEPFAR program, to fight HIV and AIDS. We have a $752 million investment this year, which is over 11 billion rand this year. It's the largest public health investment we've ever made in any country in the world. And we work hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder, with the South African Ministry of Health to fight HIV and AIDS. We've made tremendous progress. We still have a long ways to go, but we're very much committed in helping the government here in South Africa to confront these major health scourges, and particularly the challenge of HIV and AIDS.
I'm going to ask you this question, and I'm going to use my hand just to further show that I'm playing an open hand here. This may be a bit political, and if you can't answer it, I understand. President Cyril Ramaphosa said something during a summit of Fourth Industrial Revolution, our first actually as a country, and he made an overture towards a company that has been on American radars, especially when one thinks about the trade tensions that you have with China. He said that he is ready to embrace Huawei's 5G technology. Did that not make a dent at all on the relationship?
I think that President Ramaphosa's priorities of focusing on the Fourth Industrial Revolution and focusing on information technology, frankly, provide a lot of very important and interesting opportunities for the United States and South Africa to cooperate together. We have some of the best companies in the world in terms of information technology, digitalization, and major American firms, whether Google or Microsoft or Cisco or others, have just the top of the line technology, business practices, the technology transfer, the employment opportunities here in country, which are very, very exciting. And we look forward to working together with President Ramaphosa's government to move forward on these priorities of moving into the Fourth Industrial Revolution area here in South Africa.
David, the U.S. Government's cooperation is by far most sought by many countries in the developing world and in the developed world. Your word carries with it much weight, especially in global affairs. The cooperation that you've shown South Africa following the request from our Justice Department for assistance, especially with regards to the Gupta brothers, can we expect that cooperation to extend to some of your allies that we have also requested for assistance with regards to tightening the net on the Gupta network, as it were?
I think the step that the United States government took yesterday of imposing these financial sanctions and travel restrictions on the Gupta brothers and their business associate, I think this sends a very important signal of solidarity to President Ramaphosa's government and our joint efforts together to fight corruption. And I think that, certainly our allies and friends around the world, which are democracies committed to rule of law and the fight against corruption, we are sure, and I've had some conversations, that these kind of efforts encourage others to move forward in some positive ways. I can't talk about the specifics of those, but I would just say it's a boost for our efforts jointly around the world to fight corruption, fight for good governance, and strengthen our democracies.
By no means am I asking you to lead the Treasury Department here or the State Department, but the Guptas were in charge of a very sophisticated and large network that they used to acquire these ill-gotten gains. Can we expect that you are looking at a wider network of possibly some of the key actors in that state capture project that we speak about in South Africa?
The Magnitsky Act, which is the provisions under which these financial sanctions were imposed against the Guptas, we use that as an ongoing process to analyze challenges of corruption and human rights violations in countries around the world. So there's an ongoing process of examining cases and individuals for those provisions and considering when we should make designations. Our announcement yesterday was about these 4 individuals. I can't comment on others that we might be looking at.
Acting Ambassador, your decision, the action to sanction the Gupta brothers and Salim Essa, has made South Africans feel like they're important again on the global map, as it were. But we are not the only ones, I'm sure, in Africa that are pining for American attention, for American cooperation and American assistance. It's been a fight, if you will, between the superpowers, as it were. We've had a lot of Chinese investments come into Africa. And some say that has been at the detriment of American investment. Is Africa the last frontier, as it were? Is it? Are you worried about the overinvestment of China on the continent and in South Africa?
I can say that the United States' commitment through our alliances, our partnerships with South Africa and other countries across the continent, those are deep and broad. And you can just look around our engagement across the continent in so many ways to see why we're invested, how we're invested, and that that's a long-term investment that we're going to be committed together. Here in South Africa, as I mentioned, we have a major impact through our trade and investment ties in both directions. We have new programs like Prosper Africa, the Build Act, and others, which are going to strengthen those trade and investment ties even more. Our investments, as I mentioned, in the PEPFAR program to fight HIV and AIDS are historic, and our partnerships together are keeping literally, there's more than 4.5 million South Africans who are alive today because of our antiretroviral drugs that are provided to HIV positive people. We're working to even push further in those efforts. We still have a long way to go because we have to push for epidemic control. But you know, when you look at that kind of investment of $750 million this year in South Africa on that health cooperation alone, you see that we are invested. We are partners. We are friends, and we're here to stay.